Mr. Birdie, members of the board, I do have several items for your consideration this evening under items for board action. Number one, recommend the approval of the Fairfield City School District calendar for 2021-2022. Number two, recommend the approval of the Memorandum of Understanding between the Fairfield Classroom Teachers Association and the Fairfield Board of Education regarding 2020-2021 teacher evaluations. Number three, recommend approval of Nancy Lane to act as designee for Board of Education member Scott Clark to fulfill the Public Records Act training requirement as required by policy KBA, Public's Right to Know. And number four, recommend approval to appoint Jerry Lynn Gundrum as the OSBA Student Achievement Liaison for 2020-2021. That concludes the items I have for your consideration at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept those recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Heard Mr. Begley and Mrs. Gundrum. Any comments from the board? Questions? Okay, Mrs. Lane, you call the roll, please.
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mrs. Gundrum?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Yes, motion passes.
Mr. Birdie, members of the board, I do have one additional item for your consideration. Number five, recommend adoption of the following resolution. Resolution approving a school compensation agreement with the Fairfield Township Board of Trustees and waiving rights to certain notice and approval of tax increment financing exemptions by the Fairfield Township Board of Trustees on specific real property. And if it's okay with the board, I'd ask to waive the reading of this resolution.
It's okay.
All right, and that concludes the other additional item that I have for your consideration this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept that recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
I heard Mr. Clark and Mr. Begley. Any questions or comments? I would like to just comment that since my wife Susan is a trustee, a Fairfield Township trustee, I will be abstaining from the vote. Okay? Mrs. Lane, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mrs. Gundrum?
Yes.
Mr. Birding?
Abstain. Motion passes.